Analysis. Julia Lee joins us from Bell Direct now. Julia, good to talk to you. Now, what happened on the market today? Did we see a bit of a struggle with the resources gaining, but some of the banks and Telstra dragging the overall market down?
Friday, altogether this morning, it was a good start for the Australian share market. We saw the US market up by 0.2%, and the markets really seemed to ignore the fact that commodity prices were mostly lower overnight. But going into the session, as you can see from the intraday graph behind me, the ASX 200 index really lost ground, and that was mainly due to Telstra, which finished the day down 4.3%. In fact, excluding Telstra and the financial sector, all other sectors managed gains. And if we have a look at the financial sector, they only managed some very small losses in the end, the big four banks ending quite mixed. If we have a look at the other sectors, we saw the material sector a standout, and that was despite base metals falling, oil prices falling, as well as gold prices falling overnight. We saw both BHP Billiton and Rio Tinto gaining more than 1%. And I guess brokers have been upgrading their forecasts on commodity prices and commodity demand. So that's been good news for these two stocks. Now, looking to the US session tonight, it is going to be quite an interesting session. We're going to be very closely eyeing the retail sales numbers out for the month of August. Now, the consensus is for a rise of 1.9%, and that would make it the biggest rise that we've seen in these numbers since January 2006. So these numbers are expected to be supported by the Cash for Clunkers program. So really a surge in the sales coming through from autos as well as gas station is expected to help these numbers. So a close eye on those numbers tonight.
Definitely. Now, another big story, BHP Billiton upgrading reserves at Olympic Dam. What are the details?
Olympic Dam is an absolute huge resource. If we have a look at some of the statistics for Olympic Dam, it's the fourth largest copper deposit in the world. It's the fifth largest gold deposit in the world. It's the largest uranium deposit in the world, and it's also got significant silver. Now, BHP Billiton has upgraded its total ore reserves by 25%. So if we have a look at proven and probable reserves, they've upgraded that to 589 million metric tons. Now, the proven component of that is 168 million metric tons, and the probable component of that is 401 million metric tons. Now, BHP Billiton is planning to expand Olympic Dam, and that would significantly see annual production of copper, gold, as well as uranium absolutely jump. BHP Billiton having a good day on the back of brokers upgrading their commodity price forecast, up by 1.1% today.
Of course, the other huge story today, Telstra, with the news of these talks around separation of the company. Now, we knew this was possibly coming, but shares really struggled today.
Bronnie, I think we knew that this was coming, but it was widely expected that separation of the infrastructure and the service area would see some sort of compensation for Telstra, but it doesn't look like any compensation will be forthcoming. So that's got to be quite disappointing for Telstra shareholders. If we have a look at Telstra shares in the past month, it hasn't been a good ride for shareholders. This is the last 30 days of trading for Telstra shareholders. You can see around about the 20th of August, we saw the Future Fund selling off its 34% stake of Telstra, and that caused a downturn in Telstra's share price. Today, another large downturn in Telstra's share price because of that announcement by the government. Now, it does make sense in terms of the Australian economy for the separation of Telstra's wholesale and retail businesses, because what we find in countries like New Zealand and in Europe is that one company doesn't own both the infrastructure as well as have a service business out of it. But here in Australia, we see Telstra owning the infrastructure as well as having a service component to its business, and that makes it quite difficult for some of its competitors, which also have to use Telstra's infrastructure in order to carry out services. So I guess the disappointing part for Telstra shareholders is the lack of talk about any sort of compensation for the separation. So Telstra shares a pretty big hit today, down by 4.3%. Also, some uncertainty over what's going to happen with Telstra's pay television assets has sparked a bit of speculation around those pay TV assets. So that's been good news for the likes of Consolidated Media, which was up by about 2%. And we've also seen Austar jump by more than 4% today.
Yeah, some big moves to the upside for some of those stocks, as you said there. Julia, of course, tonight we get to see you on Your Money, Your Call, answering viewer questions about the share market and what they should be doing. Looking forward to it. Should be a good show.
Should be a good show. They can dial in from 8 p.m. to 9.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Julia. We'll see you then.
Thanks, Brady.